You know, when it comes to media, there are few things I love more than fighting games and rock music. You know, it would be awesome if there was a series that just so happened to combine the two. What else do you want me to say? Guilty Gear is the flagship series of the Japanese game developer Arc System Works, and was created by none other than the game's composer Daisuke Ishiwatari, and as of 2021 has become a heavy hitter in the fighting game scene. But the series, to the shock of no one, has existed for over 20 years, and to be honest, as much as I'm happy to see the series finally hitting a larger audience, I do have some misgivings about its current form. But before we can even remotely get to talking about that, I'd like to give the entire mainline series a look, as it's been quite a while since I've played most of these games, and I think they'll be pretty fun to talk about, right? So to start us off, we have the original Guilty Gear, which at least on consoles was released originally for the PlayStation in 1998, and later re-released for the 20th anniversary of the series on Steam, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch. And, the missing link is, well, a game, to put it lightly. This is gonna be a ride. So nowadays, Arc System Works is known for their incredibly polished and detailed anime style that blows pretty much every other game out of the water in terms of pure detail and aesthetic. The Missing Link, on the other hand, I don't want to be that guy. This really isn't a bad looking game or anything, but this looks like a Neo Geo game. Not to throw shade at the Neo Geo, because once again, as I think I've mentioned before, I am a big fan of early King of Fighters, and I really do hate to be that guy. But PlayStation 1 game. Games like Mega Man X5 exist. Okay, I know I'm not being fair comparing this random indie fighter to Capcom. I really do know that. But it's hard not to notice how much worse this looks than literally every other game in the series. Okay, besides maybe that one. And putting this next to something like X5 really makes this a little awkward. Although once again, I acknowledge that unlike some other games I know, this was basically made by a nobody developer in the late 90s. Just not my favorite game to look at, although let's be real, I've been spoiled to Kingdom Come by later games, so I'm very skewed here. So the visuals aren't that great, but how's the sound design? Well, the running noise can absolutely be compared to the absolute classic American action cartoon icon, Charlie Brown. And the impact sound sounds like they found some weird goo to squeeze together, and the more I think about it, the grosser the image in my head becomes. So I'm gonna move on. At least it fits with the blood effects, I guess. And the air dashing noise? I actually don't have anything really snarky to say about that, because it just sounds like a gunshot. Which fits pretty well with the whole shooting yourself across the screen thing. But of course, we all know what comes next. The announcer voice, of course! Okay, just messing with you. It's the fucking banger of a soundtrack. I mean, it's Guilty Gear. What did you expect? Mind you, it's not the best OST in the series by a long shot, but even if it's just the basis of what's to come, it's still really good. Sure, this is the worst version of Holy Orders, but goddamn, it's still Holy Orders. Even the songs that were replaced in later entries are still pretty good, like A Fixed Idea, and don't get me started about how much I love Death in Republic. My only real complaint about the OST is somebody needs to turn it the fuck down in game! Actually, that's just a sound issue in general, because this game is way too loud. To put it into perspective, anything below half recording volume peaks like crazy in OBS, if you don't change the recording volume. Yeah, word of advice with this game, keep your TV down if you don't want noise complaints. Before we get into how to actually, play this fighting game, let's ask the all-important question of, why the hell are we fighting anyways? And for once, my good friends, it's not... Okay, it's still a tournament arc, but there's a bit more than usual, so hear me out. In the future year of 2010, you have to understand it was the late 90s, humanity discovered an infinite energy source that came to be known as magic. At some point far after that, humanity created living magic-based weapons known as gears. Why they call them that? I don't know, don't ask me. Unfortunately, the command gear known as Justice revolted and destroyed Japan, starting a war with humanity that would last 100 years, known only as the Crusades. Justice would eventually be defeated, fittingly enough I guess, by the Sacred Order of Holy Knights. God, that is a redundant name. Like Sacred and Holy, that means the same friggin' thing. Anyways, the Knights are able to seal Justice away, ending the conflict. However, not even 5 years later, unrest began to settle in due to the fear of Justice possibly being revived. The Union of Nations then decides to organize a tournament to find a champion to take on Justice should she revive, with the prize being anything the winner desires. And when the game begins, we are left with our final 10 competitors. So with the gameplay, I'm going to keep things relatively simple, since admittedly, I'm no expert on the advanced tech of this game. Guilty Gear The Missing Link is a 2D anime fighter that solidified many of the subgenre's tropes. As alluded to earlier, the player is not only able to dash on the ground, but in the air as well. And man, do these dashes go far, like Jesus. It's over full screen. Also, double jumps are a thing. But what's interesting is that unlike future Gear games, you can double jump after you air dash and vice versa. For attacking, the player has access to 4 buttons: punch, kick, slash, and heavy slash. So what about dust, you veteran Guilty Gear players are asking? Well, that just wasn't a button yet. Instead, you get the universal overhead input by pressing slash and heavy slash together, and you only get your lows with your crouching moves. This game also has what is known as Gatlings. When your attack makes contact with the enemy, as long as you're going higher in the Gatling order, you can cancel the end lag of the previous attack and immediately go into the next one, with the order being the way I listed the buttons beforehand. Of course, you also have access to special attacks for each character by performing the corresponding input for the move, with most characters having a special move that can be charged up for more damage by using the respect button. Yeah, in addition to the taunt button, each character can also do a respect, which is pretty cool, show some sportsmanship and all that crap. You're mostly using it to charge shit though. Throws are performed by pressing heavy slash neither forward or back while close to the opponent, not much to say there. And of course, talking about special moves brings us to the good old question of, who's our playable cast? Sole Bad Guy is a bounty hunter who has made it his mission to hunt down all remaining gears. Kai Kisk is the former leader of the Sacred Order of Holy Knights, and along with Soul, make up the Ryu and Ken duo of the game. Mei is a member of the Jellyfish Air Pirates who, despite looking like a slow heavy hitter due to, the giant ass anchor, is a mobility-based offensive character. Melia Rage, a former assassin, unlike in later titles, is a keep-away zoner. Probably unintentionally due to her mainly getting the title due to exploiting a certain game mechanic. Zato 1, who is the leader of the Assassin's Guild, is yet another zoner, except this time it's actually 100% intentional, with him being able to summon drills and other projectiles from the ground. No funny puppet character stuff this game though. Axel Lowe is an unintentional time traveler who tries to be a zoner. He's doing his best, guys. Potemkin is a giant of a man who's really trying to be a grappler. And a character at all, he's also doing his best. Chip Zenov is the resident high-speed character with a fast run speed and teleport. He got these abilities due to the drugs, they say. Okay, that part's not true, but the part about him being a former drug addict is. Dr. Baldhead is a serial killer focused on the mid-range, or at least that's what he's supposed to do. Finally, we have the retired leader of the Sacred Order of Holy Knights before Kai took over, Cliff Anderson, who is a heavy-hitting spacing character due to, you know, the giant-ass sword. He dies in this game. Alright. Let's stop beating around the bush. I know why you're here. You want me to talk about what this game is known for. Being unbalanced and janky as fuck. Let's start simple. Getting dizzied is a thing in this game, which means if you get hit too much, it will put you in a stun animation for several seconds. That may seem kinda whatever, as other games like Street Fighter have this, but you'll soon see how bad this is in a minute. Remember how I said you could charge specials? Well, as a resident Kai player, it lets me turn Stun Edge into this. For those of you who don't know, this has so much hit and block stun on the Slash version, I have enough time to charge another one. And we haven't even scratched the surface yet! You can cancel blocking into any special move for free, which I actually didn't know until doing research for this video, which is pretty good. Well, in most games that is. It's more of a required saving grace in this game, where just about everyone has an infinite combo. And why is that? Well, let's remember the charge one more time. You can actually chain that off of a normal since it counts as a special move, which, due to the way it works, can be ended instantly after it starts, just by letting go of the respect button. Which means, if you use a normal, with enough hits done, you can dash up and use it again, and loop that sequence for all eternity. Or more accurately, until your opponent dies due to the complete lack of a combo breaker. It's not easy to do, mind you, but it's far from impossible if you put in the time. And speaking of infinite shit, once the chaos meter at the bottom of the screen fills up, you can use what is known as your chaos attack, which is this game's equivalent to super moves. Or you can just wait until you hit half health and have infinite uses. You know, this was fine in Fatal Fury because it kicked in at like 20% health. Also, desperation moves weren't very good, or at least Terry's isn't very good. In Guilty Gear, these hit like a truck and are pretty fast. Just look at this! And due to the infinite uses at half health, you can do shit like stack Soul's Dragon Install for even more power. This alone turns Melia into a terrifying range threat. Yeah, there's no invincibility on any of these moves, but who cares when I can just loop Tyrant Rape to nuke people? But come on, let's be real. Who needs these fancy schmancy infinite combos or supers when I have access to an instant kill attack that counts for both of the rounds needed to win a best of 3 I can use as much as I want at any time? You think I'm joking? Just press punch and kick together and your character will throw in an attack that will turn the background red, and once this happens, the attacker must do a quarter circle forward while pressing an attack button, and the defender must do the same but a quarter circle back. If the defender wins, they will dodge and the attacker will run through. If the attacker wins, the game instantly ends. This is, without question, one of the most bullshit mechanics I have ever seen in a fighting game. And it gets better, my friends. Certain characters, Kai, can do shit like this. That's right, baby. Kai's instant kill has just enough range that he can loop it if he fails, leading to a checkmate situation that relies solely on him screwing up his timing in order to escape from. Because guess what? the instant kill state triggers on block as well, and does a small amount of chip, and Stun Dipper sets this loop up perfectly. And the craziest part about all this is that there's still dumb bullshit in this game that I'm not even aware of. Like, and I'm pretty sure they're still finding stuff too. Okay, let's wrap this up. Guilty Gear The Missing Link doesn't have that many modes to choose from. We have normal mode, which is just arcade mode where you fight every other character and get an ending after fighting the bosses. Doesn't have a difficulty select for some reason. Versus mode, which is the usual, and training mode. Not much else to it. So this is the part where I spoil the story of a game that's over 20 years old. So here's the timestamps to skip for the 3 people who want to. Shock of all shocks, the tournament was a front by the gear known as Testament to revive justice, saying that all that's needed is the blood of one more before challenging the player. Player wins, with Testament using their own blood to help Justice achieve full resurrection, and if you're playing Soul, you quickly notice that somebody on the translation team made a fuck up. To be fair, Justice from what I've gathered was referred to neutrally in the Japanese release, and the translators probably took one look at the crotch spike, jumped the gun, and called it a day. I admittedly can't blame them too badly since overseas communication is a pain in the ass, and was even worse back then. Also, 90s translation. Still a massive fuck up that genuinely impresses me no matter how many times I see it though. Anyways, Justice revives in one of the most badass boss introductions to ever exist in a video game. And she lives up to the hype. With a triple jump and double air dash, she has the best mobility in the game, great range on all of her normals, and specials, especially Imperial Ray, is tied with Potemkin for the highest defense value in the game and can actually use it, and of course has the best super by far in the form of Gamma Ray. Sure, it takes a second to charge, but the reward is massive damage, even on block, and the move hits so many times that it's guaranteed to stun the opponent, and due to, the funny infinite supers, this can happen. Admittedly, I actually cheered when this happened because I couldn't repeat this exactly if I tried. So, after a fight that will either take you hours or minutes, depending on how good you are at exploiting the game's jank, justice will fall once and for all. I only did 2 arcade runs for this video with Sol and Kai, so I only have their endings, which are honestly pretty depressing with the victory feeling hollow. Beating Justice unlocks her in Testament for Versus mode, which is pretty awesome. I love it when games do stuff like this. And there's actually a secret fight against everyone's favorite one-eyed and one-armed swordswoman Baiken if you beat the game without using continues. Only as Sol and Kai for some reason though. Beating her unlocks her for Versus mode as well. So, after all this, you probably think that this game is pretty terrible. Which it is, and that's why I adore it. This game is an absolute blast because of everything wrong with it. There are very few other games that make me smile as much as this game does. To phrase it better, this is one of my favorite grab a couple friends, get the popcorn out, and have a blast games. Or in everyday terms, so bad it's good. Every time I lock the AI down with Stun Edge, every time I see a bullshit instant kill, I don't rage, I laugh. Games like this just have a certain charm to them, and because of that, this is actually my 3rd favorite Guilty Gear game. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. A game doesn't have to be good in order to be fun, and this is a perfect example of that. Don't get me wrong, hold this to any sort of, quote, reasonable modern fighting game standards, and it falls to pieces. But if you look at it for what it is and go in with the intention of just having a good time, you'll have the time of your life with this one. If you're even remotely interested in how Guilty Gear started, or just want a good time, play Guilty Gear The Missing Link. You won't regret it. It's once again available on the Switch, PS4, and Steam. Now, I'm not going to jump right into the next Guilty Gear game, mainly to avoid getting sick of the series too fast. So until I come up with whatever I'm going to do next time, have a nice, whatever time of day it is wherever you are. I'm not in your walls. Yet.